So you might have heard of me talk about this before, but why is this so bad to cook with? Just absolutely terrible to cook with. And there's a really particular reason as to why it's so bad when you cook with it, or just heat it up in general. But first, let's talk about what happens when it isn't heated up. So the difference between oils, saturated versus polyunsaturated, would be saturated fat, we already know, like lard, tallow, and butter, or anything of the sort, is really, really stable. And that's because it cannot undergo resonance stabilization. And breaking off the hydrocarbon chain is very, very difficult because there is no lone pair of electrons. However, polyunsaturated fats like canola oil, sunflower oil, avocado oil, any sort of plant oil, has these double bonds, and these double bonds allow it to go through resonance stabilization, and it's easier to break off whenever you're heating it up. So that's a problem. But why exactly is that a problem in the first place? Well, let's look at the difference of what happens when you heat one or the other up. Now, when those polyunsaturated fats are heated up, they are actually known to cause cancer or increase the risk of cancer, and that has to do with the fact that they are forming aldehydes. Now, when polyunsaturated fats are heated up, they are more likely to produce aldehydes, and this is a very, very big problem. And there are specific aldehydes which are carcinogenic, but these are not so good. And this is exactly why you especially don't want to be having any sort of food that's fried if it's in vegetable oil, because, oh boy, you really crank up the heat when you fry food. Now, you might even remember my previous video about lipid peroxidation if you're interested in the science behind videos. And yes, this is a lipid peroxidation thing again. And as we know before, lipid peroxidation is more likely to cause reactive oxygen species, which eventually in turn cause cancer, or can cause cancer damage, or just damage of the body itself. Now, this study did exactly this. They heated up polyunsaturated fats, and they heated up saturated fats, and monounsaturated fats actually as well. And they heated all of them up, and the consensus was, through HNMR analysis, which means we know with 100% certainty that the aldehydes were present, that polyunsaturated fats, when heated up, had significantly higher amounts of aldehydes than monounsaturated or saturated fats. And yes, this again confirms the fact that polyunsaturated fats, plant oils, are not good to eat, and that's because, again, they go through this whole lipid peroxidation thing. No bueno. No cancer. You don't want cancer. So I'm gonna say it's a no bueno. And if you know how much I talk about collision theory and might understand it a bit better, you might see exactly why heating up these polyunsaturated fats makes everything 10 times worse. And the higher the heat, the higher the chance of the energy of collisions, and the higher the frequency of collisions as well. So again, not good at all. Remember, all of this is relative. So understanding the three variables of orientation, energy of collisions, and frequency of collisions gives a better understanding as to just how bad polyunsaturated fats can be, especially when heated up and the aldehydes are made and then ingested, which again, lipid peroxidation, yeah. So it's pretty bad. So if we were to apply what we just learned to the real world, which I think is pretty much the most important thing in the first place, then we would find out that, one, we don't want to be eating plant oils, but if we do eat plant oils, there are two conditions that must be met. One, you don't want it being cooked, and you don't want it being cooked because, again, you don't want aldehydes generated, and you don't want to have to undergo a lot of lipid peroxidation stress, which reactive oxygen species, again, I'm not going to talk about that in this video. And second, you want to use olive oil, coconut oil, or avocado oil specifically if you are ingesting any sort of plant oil and you do not want them heated up or cooked. You can use them maybe as like a balsamic vinaigrette, or I have no idea. I don't eat plants anymore, so I have no idea. But a sort of like sauce on the salad maybe. That's the only thing I can possibly think of. And the reason is because the polyunsaturated fat content in those three plant oils that I previously mentioned are definitely much lower than the polyunsaturated fat content in canola or sunflower oil. Any of those oils you definitely want to avoid. So I hope you guys learned something. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And if you like the video, please give it a like. It really helps spread the message. If you have anybody you want to share this with and they might be able to get something from this, again, give it to them. It definitely will help reduce the chance of cancer, as well as most likely the rate of cancer, if they do have cancer, due to a decrease in lipid peroxidation. And yeah, so thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.